My name is Tasneem Al-Michael, and I've been an immigrant in the United States for 24 years. I'm a Bangladeshi person. My parents are both Bangladeshi. Dad used to be an engineer in Brunei, and then my mother was a teacher there. But they were immigrant workers in a country that is ethnically Brunei, and so if you're not from there, you can't be a citizen of that country. And my sister and I were both born there, and so we had to go from Brunei back to Bangladesh. My sister and I, our immune systems were not used to what was in Bangladesh. It was as though I was about to die at any moment. And so we decided to take a plane to Canada. My dad and my parents lived there for a little while before we came to the United States in August of 2000. If you're an infant, you get to be in your mother's passport. Coming into the United States, every single individual has to have a passport. My mom, dad, my sister, they were all legal, but because of this minor inconvenience, I became an undocumented person. I really knew that I was undocumented when I was 13 years old. My parents never told me that I was technically illegal on paper, and I was kind of soul crushed because this is the reason I have been held back from going to things like sleepovers and hanging out with people after a certain time of night. And then, like, why haven't we gone back to Bangladesh in years, over a small administrative issue and how that shapes an entire person's life. So growing up in Oklahoma City as an undocumented immigrant, you are mostly focused only on school because education is the only opportunity to move forward in life. You're not focused on anything unrealistic like arts and stuff like that because it doesn't generate profit. But my mother made an exception with myself because my parents felt like they owed me some degree of happiness for the horrible situation that I was put in. So I was allowed to do art. I was allowed to go sing, go act, and that was the solace that I found. I felt like my life was based on a technicality. Being here felt like that my existence is a walking problem. I felt like I was this anomaly that, this person is from here, they say they're from here, but you don't have paperwork. So coming to the United States was an endeavor to try and keep yourself legal. In the United States, when you're a foreign student, or to stay legal, you have to be a student. My mom decided to be that person for our family to keep us in status, to really make sure that her kids had an opportunity to go to school. We say in our family that our mom was very smart. She has 5 associate's degrees. That means that she took over 10 years of continuously going back to school. My sister and I have fond memories of being in a lot of college classrooms with her to try and interpret English and helping write a lot of those papers and stuff like that with her in order to maintain that status. The story of my permanent residency originally started when I was 15 and a half years old. My sister, my mother, and myself were sitting in our immigration attorney's office, and she was explaining to us this program known as DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals Program. Any undocumented kid who was here in the United States after June of 2012 was allowed to have access to this program. And it would give you the ability to have a driver's license, a social security number, and a work authorization. That was the foundation of getting a green card. My sister received her permanent residency through the diversity lottery visa. We would not be in the situation of permanent residency right now if she didn't win the lottery. And after 5 years and becoming a US citizen, she was able to apply for my parents and they received their green cards. We were saved by the lottery. Getting my permanent residency was like a huge burden being lifted off the shoulders of my entire family. My father said this to me, "Today I can finally sleep." permanent residency feels powerful to have. Being an undocumented immigrant is a blessing and a curse. For me, the blessing was that I started to understand how this government works, how the system of immigration works. When I was 18 years old, I was drafted in by a nonprofit organization to organize parts of the undocumented community. And they took me to our nation's capital, and I went straight into doing sit-ins. It was literally going from 0 to 100% of activism in a very short amount of time. Because I'm in Washington, D.C. I'm told my entire life to fear the government. That's like wanting to get deported. But not realizing that that was a right that we had, even as undocumented people. That is powerful. We learned in that process that storytelling is the greatest thing that we can do as undocumented people to describe that, because that's power for us. I didn't realize that until I got into activism. You know, I went to the University of Oklahoma for drama school. And months in, my entire life completely changed, a whole 180 into focusing on this work and this work alone. Organizing helped me realize that I had the ability to be in charge of myself, and that if I can get other people to care about the same thing that I do, I have a degree of power for myself alongside these people. Becoming an organizer meant I had to understand power very quickly. When you start to take a step back and realize that all of these laws and regulations and policies that we make as people are decided by people. And eventually, as an undocumented immigrant, when you become aware of what happens in government, you realize that this system was designed on purpose to keep you from advancing in life. The United States immigration system is a uniquely outdated immigration system. There needs to be a complete change and reform. We need to also make sure that this process is designed to help people immigrate rather than keep people out. There needs to be a difference between immigrating to the United States and being a criminal in the United States, and separating those two things and ensuring that immigrants are treated much more humanely than this system currently does. Myself not being able to vote basically is like a living example of why you should go out to vote, because it is a privilege that you have. It is a power that you have. And not being able to actively use that is not only harming yourself, but is also harming other people. It is social responsibility. Apathy kills. Being able to completely disassociate from what's happening in the world is definitively harming undocumented immigrants. You have to step up for the voiceless. It's kind of like asking somebody to be a superhero. But superheroes are everyday people. Normal people make these changes. Immigrants is just a way of saying that I'm moving from one place to the other. We tend to overcomplicate when we use that term, illegal alien. Like, I'm not from outer space. I'm a neighbor. Deep down in my heart, have this almost unwavering belief that this is a home for immigrants. I think it's incredibly important for you to understand as a non-immigrant that you have insane amounts of power and privilege that the everyday undocumented person, undocumented immigrant doesn't have. being an undocumented immigrant has made me come to love my culture more than anything imaginable. I have to know where I come from. I have to know what we're made of. I'm 24 years old. I have a lifetime to learn, and I'm really excited to enter that part of my life.